I want to talk about recession. I want to talk about a slowdown in the economy. I want to talk about looking forward to like what can we expect in the following months, in the following years, as far as the economy, as far as the stock market, as far as like what indicators are telling us right now. And okay, so one thing I want to know is that there's a popular joke in like the economic world that goes like economists and analysts have predicted 9 out of the past 5 recessions. Okay, and what that means is that like economists, analysts are great at predicting, like saying, "Oh, there's a recession coming up. There's a recession coming up. There's a recession." They've been saying it since the dawn of time, right? Everybody's predicting a recession. It doesn't mean that a recession is gonna come. A lot of times people are wrong. There's CNBC articles, there's Bloomberg articles, there's videos about is this next recession. There's if you read articles on Seeking Alpha, like there's people taking their money out of equities, putting it into bonds, keeping it in cash, just to prepare themselves for what might come in the following months, in the following years. And so I kind of want to look at like what these analysts and what these investors have been saying about the economy, and kind of like I want to hear you guys' thoughts of like what do you think of all of this, okay? And so just to go into it, a recession. What is a recession, okay? A recession is 2 quarters of negative GDP growth. And just to put that into relation to where we are at right now GDP is around 3.4%. All right. So a recession, 2 quarters of negative GDP growth. And so is there going to be a recession in 2019? Is there going to be a recession in 2020, 2021? I mean, we've had a straight like bull market for like the past 10 years, right? It has to be a looming recession coming any day now. And so is this the start of a recession? Is this the start of a slowdown? Let me just say some like things that like are talking points of bears and people who believe this, all right? And so the first is companies lowering guidance. So we've seen it with Apple. And actually I have a video. I made a couple of videos on Apple, the headwinds that they're facing right now, as far as like the slowdown in China. They lowered their guidance and they just beat that guidance, that expectation. We have companies like Apple, Caterpillar, Amazon, Samsung, FedEx, Johnson and Johnson, Tesla, Delta, Macy's, just to name a few, lowering their guidance in 2019. And so you see, this is a whole wide range of companies. It's not just like one sector or one thing or one company. It's a whole range of companies from a whole range of different sectors. So that's one bear case, like companies lowering guidance. It's you just have to think like lower revenues, lower money, lower cash flow, less money going around, maybe less people spending money. So that's one thing to think about. Companies lowering guidance. These companies are bringing in less revenue. So economic data just released. So I think there was economic data just released, I think just last week or the week before. And it wasn't exactly positive, and the stock market was down that day. And it wasn't positive news. So one of the things that came out was the leading economic index declined 0.1% in January. And so what is the LEI, the leading economic index? It's a composite economic index designed to signal peaks and troughs in the business cycle. It's composed of several leading, coincident, and lagging indicators. It includes things such as the interest rate spread, the building permits, stock prices, manufacturers' new orders, claims for unemployment insurance. And this is the first quarter-over-quarter decline, back-to-back decline in over 3 years. And so it's something to think about. The LEI declined 0.1% in January. So we will have to see the next time this comes out. And so another thing that a lot of people talk about is the Treasury yield. So the yield on the US 10-year is above 3.2% in November. It was above 3.2% in November, and it's around 2.6% as of last week. And so this is not something that you would see with that's not something that you would expect with the stock market rally. Going on, another thing that people talk about is the global economy. The global economy is slowing. And you've seen a lot of companies like Apple. I made a video. Check out the other videos on my channel and talk about the headwinds at Apple. But Apple just released in a statement that China, they're having lower revenues in China. Like I think their phone sales were down 26% or something, to a very high magnitude in China. So slowing phone sales, automakers. So there's a slowing global economy in Asia. Going into like the global economy, European Commission cuts its 2019 GDP estimates by a third. So that's the Eurozone GDP now stands at 1.3%, which is down from 1.9%. As of right now, Italy is officially in a recession. And like I said, what is a recession? A recession is 2 quarters of negative GDP. So Italy is officially in a recession right now. Growth is in Germany is faltering. Australia's central bank cut its outlook and is cutting rates. And so it's just like, obviously, if the global economy is slowing down, then this would have an effect on the U.S. and the U.S.'s economy. Another thing that people talk about is the Federal Reserve. Jerome Powell and the Fed has said that they are taking a new patient stance. They have halted the interest rate hikes. The last one was in December, and so they're taking like a more patient stance. They're more dovish. The stock market is surging on this news that they're being patient with the hikes. And it's one thing to think about, like, we're in a late stage of the economic cycle. And it's one thing to think about that we're in a late stage of the economic cycle, and that that the economy can't handle these rate hikes right now. So that's just one thing to think about. Another thing that people talk about is the trade war. The trade war, I'm not going to go into it because there's so much, like, you hear it everywhere you go, the trade war, like what's happening with China, what's happening with the U.S., what's happening with Donald Trump. It's all news, the trade war. Another thing to think about is valuation. The S&P PE ratio is around 20 right now, when 14 is around the median. And so a lot of companies right now are a little bit overvalued, is what that is telling you. And so going through these lists of things, like, this is some of the reasons that they say, like, we're in the late stage of the economic cycle, the economy is slowing down, we may have a pullback in the stock market, there's going to be a recession. Like, you see all these like clickbait headlines right now, and that's some of the reasons that they list. As for right now, like, why the economy is not doing so well. And as far as like I didn't list in this video all the bullish reasons for like why the economy is doing well, but I can do that. That's the thing, is like, there are still bullish reasons, and there's a lot of bullish economic data that's being released also, and so we have to take that in conjunction with all of this. But this is all something to think about as far as like the economy slowing down, as far as like a pullback in the stock market. It could be just isolated to the stock market, and it doesn't even have to be in the next couple of years. Like, it could be in like friggin' like the 2030s, 2040s. Like, who knows? No one can predict. Well, they can make predictions, but no one's word is fact. So that's the thing. No one's word is fact. And I couldn't tell you in the next couple of years if we're going to have a recession, if we're not, if there's going to be a pullback in the stock market. So we will just have to see. But this is all things to think about. So leave your comments down below. Like, what do you think about all this data being released right now, about everything I mentioned? What's happening in the U.S. economy right now? What's happening globally? What's happening with companies right now? It's a lot right now. So leave your comment about what you think, and where do you think the economy is headed.